got the manager, haven't we?
Got the manager. He's the
Jamie
man.
Carragher said it himself. He said they've, outside of Klopp and Guardiola, there aren't many. There isn't any manager in the Premier League who really has the experience of winning things in Europe and managing a league team. And it's interesting to see how Villa play. Sometimes at the weekend, it feels like sometimes the pace of our play goes down a little bit in the second half of games.
Yeah.
And, the substitutions we make, sometimes I think Emery is managing the team. I think he's saying, don't. It just feels like that. It feels like there's a pattern we're following in a lot of games. But I'll talk about that in a sec. But George, I tell you what, we talk about Edinburgh. I think every single person in Scotland should claim Arthur's seat in Edinburgh and give thanks to whatever God is up there and thank them for Super John McGinn being a Scottish international. In fact, I think we should walk up there as a pilgrimage.
Yeah,
like walking to Lourdes in the south of France. On a Catholic pilgrimage, like my grandparents went on once. I would walk all the way up to Arthur's Seat and give thanks to whatever is up there and say, thank you for John McGinn. Because, George, I was in the stadium for that win. And I was in the stadium for when we beat Everton 4-0. And I was there. And I tell you this now, I've said it before and I'll keep saying it again. John McGinn is a Manchester United Alex Ferguson player. When Alex Ferguson won the Premier League, he didn't win it with players like Kylian Mbappe, Neymar. He won it with players like a Roy Keane, a Dennis Irwin. He won it with players like a Darren Fletcher, a Johnny Evans. And John McGinn is of that level. And I'd say he has a fighting, battling spirit where he never gives up. But at the same time, you could just think, you could look at him and think that's all he has. But it isn't. He has absolutely fantastic quality on the ball that... I'm not sure any of us really foresaw that he could get to the level that he's currently hitting under Unai Emery. A year ago under Gerrard, he was dropped out of the team, having been given the captaincy.
Yeah.
And now look what Emery's done to him in the last year. It's like going on some MTV show and they've just remodeled you and you've turned you into Brad Pitt. It's
10 years younger.
10 years younger, something like that. Benjamin Button did. I don't know what they did, but he was absolute from the first minute, right? Fulham were trying to be physically bullying in the middle, right? With Palhinha. How Palhinha didn't get booked earlier on, I don't know. But him and Iwobi were quite physically strong and and there could have been circumstances in the past where they would have over-muscled and overawed our midfield and we would have had nothing in the centre. But it said John McGinn stood up to it over and over again. He'd use his big booty, his big, beautiful booty to keep the ball, force them off, do a turn. And in the first half, he was the only player who caught on that Luca Dean was regularly free on the left. So he turned on it, whipped it out to Dean, who put a good ball into Moussa Diaby, hit it straight to the keeper, should have scored. But again, second half, that moment, George, when Leon Bailey was running through, puts the ball into John McGinn. And McGinn, my goodness, the way he was able to turn, hold them Fulham players off, wait for the right moment to make the pass to Leon Bailey. George, we should have 10 minutes of silence just to think about it and appreciate it. 10 minutes of silence just to sit here and absorb it and think, thank you, whatever's up there, that this player has been gifted to Aston Villa from the great city of Edinburgh. From
Frankie, I did. I was at a children's birthday party on Sunday. I took myself away from the screaming kids at a soft play centre and just thought about John McGinn. And that's what got me through.
Well, I was screaming in the background.
I just sort of tuned that all out, and I just thought about John McGinn for 10 minutes, and that helped me compose myself. And then I rejoined the activities. But no, I mean, what a phenomenal performance. One of many this season from SJM. And he's kind of one of those players that you do wonder if he wasn't Scottish, maybe, if he was Brazilian or Argentinian or whatever, a bit more flamboyant in terms of his background, he'd probably be playing for Real Madrid right now, or at least a top European, probably not Real Madrid, but certainly a top European club.
Alex Ferguson, Man United player.
Oh yeah,
that's what he reminds me of. He just is that, and we have a player like that at Villa.
The moment when he picked up the ball on the flank and just breezed past, was it Bassey.
Yeah.
And then he put the ball in for Watkins. Watkins, I don't know how he missed that to make it 4-1, really. But the move from McGinn was absolutely phenomenal. And that just summed up his performance against Fulham. He was everywhere. Again, he's back to his bustling best, where he just seems to waltz past everybody. And let's not forget the goal he scored. The quality of that finish was absolutely superb. It was brilliant.
He sent Palhinha into another universe. The multiverse of madness. Palhinha's looking around going, this isn't the John McGinn I was just playing against.
Yeah. He's spinning in a black hole somewhere in deep space right now, Palhinha. He's still thinking about how he got done by John McGinn. It was just absolutely unbelievable. It was so good. But to a man, we were fantastic. I think we need to talk about Ezri Konsa as well at this point, because obviously he's got his call-up for England, a long-awaited call-up for England. In fact, Frankie, I've made a list. Things that have taken less time than Ezri Konsa getting his well-deserved England call-up. You ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
HS2, the Sagrada Familia, the 100 Years War, the person who ran a marathon with a fridge on his back, the melting of the polar ice caps, and the formation, growth, and subsequent decline of the Roman Empire. All those things have taken less time than Ezri Konsa getting his England call-up.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely unbelievable. But he's got there in the end, finally. Gareth Southgate has seen the error of his ways, and he's been brought up into the England team. He had an absolutely stormy game against Fulham as well. Not particularly flashy. He's never that flashy, Konsa. But what he has done this season is he has become that leader at the back, the one that has it was Tyrone Mings. Tyrone Mings obviously suffered that really bad injury. We wish him all the best in his recovery. But Konsa has come in and he's taken that role, and he's so good at what he does. And you talk about players not making kind of last ditch tackles because their positioning is just spot on all the time.
Yeah,
his positioning is just absolutely phenomenal. His reading of the plays, reading of the game, he just knows what to do, doesn't he? He knows what to do at the tender age of 26.
And I heard it, yesterday in the stadium, there was a moment when Matty Cash lumped the ball forward later in the second half and gave it away. And I heard Konsa scream at him to calm down. And again, it's like that sort of leadership mentality that he's starting to display, and you saw it in evidence there. You're exactly right, Jordan. I mean, if you think about it, Konsa, there was a period where he sort of dipped in his form and wasn't as great.
Yeah.
But there was that period of time, when we stayed up that season, when after the COVID break, where we were playing in a low block, sitting back a bit more. And Konsa was absolutely fantastic with his positioning that run of games that we stayed up. He really came alive. And I remember thinking he looked like a player who could become a world-class defender like that. He had something about him.
Yeah.
And, he's been in and out of form a little bit in the recent years. But I always believed he had more about him than I think a lot of pundits maybe thought. And why I thought that was because I don't know why, but I feel like I've heard people say before that he's not great on the ball, but I actually think he's really good on the ball.
Yeah.
I think I think he's very comfortable at sort of retaining possession under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And, obviously we now play a much more progressive style at the back. We hold on to it, play it forward. And I think Konsa's good at it. I don't know. I don't see much. I don't see much of a flaw in his game with it. No, I think he's good at it. So, but you can see what I was saying then. So he's very good in that low block under Dean Smith, but then under Unai Emery, we now play a very different style in defence, and he's shown his versatility and his intelligence and the ability that he can learn a totally new and very difficult style. Playing that high line, it's so hard. And look at the amount of times that Aston Villa catch players offside. It's just over and over and over again.
Yeah,
every game, it's just constant.
Yeah.
And he's a massive part of us being able to achieve that alongside Pau Torres and the other defenders. But I thought yesterday Konsa, I'll give a shout out for 3 big defensive moments. 2 from Konsa and 1 from Cash.
Yeah. 1
from Konsa in the first half was when it was 0-0. And Fulham, who I think were actually quite intelligently set up by Marco Silva, I think he's a smart, pragmatic coach. I think we won because we just had a better quality player with the home advantage. And I think just our excellent football won it for us, basically. But on top of that, I think, there was a moment where they did get in down the right-hand side. I think it was Decordova-Reid, whipped it across, and Jimenez was waiting there to make it 1-0. And Konsa, an amazing block. And it's not been in any of the highlight videos I've seen, but it was an absolutely fantastic block. And then he did it again, and I've not seen it in any highlight videos either. Ball over the top to Pereira, who got on through. And I thought, he's in. He's going to have a shot here. And Konsa somehow got back and got it off him. Again, just fantastic defending. Because with that high line, on occasion, you are going to get, someone's going to get in behind it. You got to recover. And then another time, Matty Cash, Willian, clean through. He's going to get there, and it's going to be one-on-one. Cash with the awareness,
phenomenal tackle,
and the speed to get to it. It was a real moment of brilliant athleticism and commitment.
But you mentioned, the highlights weren't featured. Oh, sorry, the moments involving Konsa weren't in the highlights.
Yeah,
but that's the point. That's what he does. Everything he does is just very, pragmatic, and it's not one for the cameras. It's not last ditch diving tackles like Cash's was a bit sort of Hollywood. He needed to make it. It was a fantastic tackle. I mean, the speed to get back there and the timing of the tackle was brilliant. But Konsa's not probably like that in terms of what he does. His effectiveness is that he just goes about his business quite subtly. But it's very incredibly effective. As I said, it's positioning. He's always in the right place to clean up, to tackle, to do whatever he does, and he does it at such a high level now. And obviously, he's doing this with a brand new partner. I mean, for the best part of 3 seasons, Tyrone Mings has been his partner. Literally week in, week out, we haven't had a disruption to that too, up his injury against Newcastle at the first game of the season. And Pau Torres was thrown in, brand new league, brand new style of football, all the rest of it. And Konsa has, I think, really helped Torres bed in quite quickly. To begin with, I think there were some issues with Torres, and there might still be as the season progresses, but in recent weeks, I think Torres has been absolutely brilliant. I think he's been fantastically well. But I think Konsa has been a huge part in that, in terms of his leadership, his guidance, helping him along, helping him perhaps get used to sort of the atmosphere in Villa Park, all the rest of it. Because Konsa's been there for a long time now. He's a seasoned Villa player.
Veteran.
Now. He's a veteran, isn't he? So that you think you need to give Konsa credit for that too. So. He's just been absolutely brilliant, and I think this discussion about Konsa is not so much really about the Fulham game, because he was obviously very good, but it's the fact he's got that England call up now. It's just credit for how much he's come along in the past few months, and again, as you say with John McGinn as well, Emery's ability to turbocharge these players has been incredible, isn't it? Yeah,
it really is amazing. It's improvement in so many of these players, to see them go up so many levels and become players that you suspected they could be.
Yeah. The ability was always there. The potential was always there, but they needed someone like Emery to kind of coax it out of them.
But then maybe even hitting heights that like John McGinn, I said it about a year. I remember saying it a while ago that I thought he was a bit of a Fergie style player. And I remember somebody coming back to me and saying, no, he's not even as good as, say, James Milner when he was at Villa. And I thought at the time, well, Milner was brilliant at Villa. But when I watch McGinn, I think, no, he is. He is good. He is as good as, when I saw him at Everton this season in the 4-0, he was 10 out of 10. He was absolutely amazing. Maybe I need to go see him play all the time, because every time I go see him, he always scores. Mostar, Fulham, Everton, and then the Chelsea game last season where he scored his first goal in 10 years. Maybe I'm his lucky charm. So look, but I thought, with the game, I just thought that I think Fulham were quite smartly set up in that they had Willian and they had Decordova-Reid in the first half out wide, and they had Iwobi sort of trying to make runs from deep. And you could see what the game plan was, but. And I think Fulham actually played all right, and I don't think they'll be in relegation trouble this season.
No, I don't think so.
But Villa, again, it's just a really reassuring sign that we're just blowing these teams away. It felt like we didn't even really need to get out of Again, it felt like it wasn't like full throttle, fifth gear Jeremy Clarkson Villa. You know what I mean? It wasn't top gear. It was more, we were still quite calm and measured and got the goals we needed, and maybe didn't exert ourselves in the way, we didn't have to go chasing the game all the time. Got the job done early doors. And so, one pattern I am noticing, and I've seen this a few times at Villa, is where we seem to be leading in the first half because we played brilliant football, work an opening, get a goal. And like Brighton, we were 3-0 up. West Ham, I think we were 2-0 against Fulham again. But it seems like every time after when the second half starts, we seem to be a bit more. We seem to invite the pressure a bit. We seem to go a bit more like an Emery team when he was at Valencia. It's a bit more pragmatic, and it's almost like we then just think suck up the pressure and then hit them on the break, and it's worked every time so far. I mean, we do just seem to. I get sort of a bit nervous and think like Fulham yesterday were putting pressure on, just like Brighton did when and they scored. It went 3-1. And West Ham also got the goal for Bone. But I was, with Fulham, I was thinking, they looks like they're going to work an opening here. But then out of nowhere, Villa just go and get a goal, and hit them on the break. And we did the same to Brighton. We did the same to West Ham. So I'm interested. I don't fully know whether this is like the plan, and I'm not sure it will work against like an Arsenal or a City. But it certainly like seems to be if it is the plan, it's working magnificently, and just shows what a fantastic coach we have in Unai Emery. George and I could get into a Palhinha versus John McGinn style battle in this, the spicy question. Today, George, I ask you, with tough fixtures coming up soon, including Spurs away, Bournemouth away, Lechia Warsaw at home in an all-or-nothing game, City and Arsenal at home, all in close succession. George, can Aston Villa keep up this amazing form?
Well, this is the acid test, isn't it? I mean, if you look at the results that we've had so far, particularly against the so-called bigger teams, the likes of Newcastle, Liverpool, those games obviously stand out. We haven't really performed well. I mean, granted, those were the away games. Not many teams are going to get anything out of a trip to Anfield, and probably ditto St James's Park, to be honest, although they've been sort of hit by injuries at the moment. So, we just played them at the wrong time, maybe. But yeah, we haven't really played teams of that quality since. I mean, that's not to say that we were guaranteed wins in all the other games that we played against so-called perhaps lesser opposition, because the Forest game proved that even games that we might be expected to win, we can still get unstuck and teams can beat us, and that's the beauty of the Premier League, really, that you can never quite work out how a game is going to go necessarily against anyone that you play. But certainly I'd really like to see us compete more against the teams that basically we're going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, competing with to finish in the kind of the top European places. So obviously Spurs is the one I've been looking at for a couple of weeks now.
The Highline Derby.
The Highline
Derby.
The Highline Derby. Mainly because of that, because we both play a very similar type of football. So it'd be very interesting to see how we get on. I mean, I'm giving it the kiss of death here, but I'm encouraged by the fact that they've, I say encouraged, but they've obviously got quite a serious injury problem at the moment. So maybe in terms of timings to play them, it could work out quite nicely for us. But it is away from home. Obviously, our record at home is brilliant. Our record away from home so far isn't as good. So that's an opportunity for us to kind of rectify that situation against a really well performing side who are in a bit of a sticky spell form wise at the moment. For the last couple of games they've struggled. So that would be good. And then yeah, I mean, the home games against Arsenal and Man City, I don't think they'll be looking forward to coming to Villa Park. The run of form we're on, 13 games, 13 wins on the bounce at Villa Park, as we've already mentioned. We're just on fire at home, and I genuinely, we should go into those games with no fear, and believe in our ability, believe in our squad and our capabilities, and I do think that this will be kind of the measure of our season. If we can get anything from those two games, then I think people will really start to sit up and take notice. We're fifth at the moment, but there's a nice little gap between us and, is it Man United? I think.
Yeah, 4 points to United, 5 above Newcastle, 6 above Brighton.
Yeah,
so we've got a bit of a cushion.
There's a bit of a cushion already, and it's only November. So yeah, I mean those games will kind of take us through into kind of December and coming up to the January transfer window. And if we're in a really good position come sort of mid-December, late December, then again you're looking at the transfer window and just seeing where we can maybe improve to kind of solidify or stabilize our position at that end of the table. So it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to it, and I just think we can go into those games against that sort of level of opposition with no fear. Why would we fear them? I think we've got a great chance. Chelsea proved yesterday that Man City can be got at.
Yeah, that's true,
they conceded 4 goals, which is something Man City very, very rarely do.
Mm-hmm.
And the way Chelsea are performing so far, granted that they're finding a bit of form themselves, but so far this season they haven't been up to much. So if Chelsea can do it at Stamford Bridge, why can't Villa do it at Villa Park? So as I say, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I look forward to it because I look forward to seeing how this team can rise to the challenge. I've never been massively confident with Villa teams rising to challenges, just from brutal experience of the last 30 years of my life. But, this feels like a different prospect now, Villa. And, dare I say it, if there's 5 Champions League places this season, obviously there's Europa League places as well. If Villa are to get Europa or, dare we to say, Champions League, they have to beat the teams. They have to beat the teams at home who are going to be bottom half and in the middle of the table. And so far, we've been doing that with ease. It's been fantastic. Now, the big question is, now the problem with Villa this season, and the only real problem has been the away form.
Yeah.
And what the consistent pattern has been in these away games, Newcastle we conceded early, Liverpool we conceded early, Lechia Warsaw, when we lost there, conceded early, and Nottingham Forest conceded early. All of those games we conceded in the first 10 to 15 minutes. And I think it might be, this is me with my little tinfoil hat, probably just trying to work it out, but just doing the eye test, trying to think what is it? Why is this happening? And I wonder if it's that because we play such a ball dominant style, opposition teams know that, the crowd is at its loudest in, the first 15 minutes of a game.
Yeah, if you can have a chance or there's a tackle or something just to get the crowd on side, the chances are you'll get them in that first 5 minutes. Yeah.
And the crowd gets you goals. It does get you goals. Yeah. It just does.
Yeah.
So all that noise, and then you've got kind of the opposition players are at their most energetic in those first 15 minutes. And it's when those 15 minutes will be when Villa haven't settled into the game.
Yeah.
In a couple of those games, the goals we conceded came from mistakes. Like the Liverpool game, for instance, Pau Torres made a mistake, I think, giving it away, led to a corner, and they scored through Szoboszlai. Yeah. So I just wonder if, because we do play quite a calm style, we're quite very like we're usually the ball dominant side.
Yeah.
But we were battered at Liverpool. That was the one that I thought they really did outclass us that day with their pressing structure, all of it. It was brilliant. Newcastle, you can sort of write off as a bit of a freakish event, I think. And Forest just sat deep, the low block, and we just didn't look like we were ever going to break it down.
Yeah.
So that's the test for us. I think, can we sort the away format and can we stop conceding goals early doors in the first 15 minutes? And Tottenham away is going to be an interesting one. We're lucky they've got so many injuries with Maddison, Basuma, who's suspended, Romero suspended, Van der Ven particularly. Maddison and Van der Ven feel like massive losses for them.
Yeah.
I think Maddison would have been the perfect player for them against our high line. Going deep, pulling out passes for Son, who's running. I think he would have just caused us a lot of problems. And Van der Ven, with their high line, Watkins and Diaby getting in behind, they don't have that pace to catch up because he's so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fascinating game, and I wonder if Villa might concede might sit back a little bit deeper, try and win the midfield battle with Kamara, McGinn, Luiz. and then go from there basically and try and do to them what teams try and do to us, which is soak it up, be ball dominant in the middle, and then hit a ball over the top to Ollie Watkins, or a McGinn wins it physically, and then a quick left-footed whipped ball into a Watkins or Diaby running behind. I think that might be the way Villa do it. But the games have got Tottenham, and then a few days after that, Lechia Warsaw at home, which, these Thursday night games are tough. We're finding, we're winning, but Mostar and AZ were not easy games. Both of them were we had to fight for it. And we want to win the table, don't we? We don't want to be playing another playoff. Yeah. So that's an important game now. Then you got Bournemouth away, who've just beaten Newcastle. Then, 3 days after that, City at home, and 3 days after that, Arsenal at home. So that is it's a big test of that. And, if we can come through that with some really impressive performances and putting a couple of doubts about the away form to bed, then you really have to believe, my God, this is doing something now. And I'm confident. I think we will do something. I think we will. I think we might be liable for a battering at some point, and there might be a day where we don't score our chances and we just get beaten 3-0, and it's well, okay, that sucks. But the way we perform this season is we've bounced back from losses very, very quickly. Which is a great sign of what our mentality is about. So, I'm nervous about that run of games because it's tough. But Moreno's playing tonight in the under-21s.
Yeah,
he's on his way back. You got Jacob Ramsey potentially coming back.
Yeah,
all these injured players hopefully coming back just at the right time. That can be very, very helpful. So, I'm looking forward to it. But I'm also quite cautious.
It's in the blood, Frankie.
It's tough. Yeah,
it's in the blood being cautious. It's good to be cautious, but we can dream.
My middle name,